What's going on, guys? T2RX6 here, back for another third-party review, and today we're taking a look at the Toyworld TW-H04G Grant. Named that because he is a small Grand Maximus. And yeah, if you missed this guy, don't worry, the Fort Max version is coming, and I assume if that sells well, we'll end up getting a Brave Max version too. I do particularly like this guy because it does give my collection a Grand Maximus at a price that I can actually afford. But Grand Maximus is kind of the least appealing of the colors in my opinion, but what can you do? Before I go any further, you saw my little thing about the stickers. I managed to put them all on, except these two. If somebody knows where they might go, let me know because they're not in the instructions. And someone actually pointed out to me a pretty good idea with this sticker. You could actually just take scissors and kind of cut all these out, so you can actually, you know, peel them up like this and kind of use it like a dry rub to actually apply this to the piece, kind of rub it on and then peel the excess sticker off, so that way you never touch the adhesive on the bottom. And that's a really good idea, so keep that in mind if you're putting stickers on your toy. And while Fortress does appear he's going to have more paint apps, I don't think you're devoid of the stickers because the whole ramps still need stickers done. Now this guy is a Fort Max knockoff in a way, but he's also improved, and there are some things that have changed though. In his base mode, you may not notice, but his fists have actually stored away. A downside to me though is that these ramps could be a little bit longer because they're just kind of a steep drop off. That said, it's not really a futuristic city. You could kind of use them as runways if you want. I guess it really doesn't matter. Versus your real Fort Max, these pieces are usually like flipped up and out respectively. This one you can flip out if you want, but it doesn't flip out the same way as Fort Max. Same goes for this one here, so if you want that. And this does not open upwards, it opens towards us, so it's kind of worthless there. Not a huge deal breaker in my opinion. As we come around this side here, you'll see that the jail door is gone. This time it's more just like steps in a compartment. We do have these added little guns on the legs, which do have a hex port that will accommodate a 5mm weapon. And we'll come back to the back here. Not too much of an improvement there. And come around this side. And obviously we don't have the little cranky mechanism anymore. The top here does of course open to accommodate your headmaster. So while we're on the subject, let's actually talk about this headmaster. He is your normal fare Toyworld headmaster, except, and I can't remember if it's improved on their Skull Cruncher incarnation, but instead of having the flat arm here, you do have a tiny little ball joint there to get a little bit of extra articulation out of it. The headmaster himself could use a little bit of paint apps on the face. That's a little bit disappointing. You do have to put some stickers on, and I did mess one of them up, and be super careful because you can see my little yellow sticker here ripped when I was trying to get it off, which is why that dry rub method's probably better. No covering of the face, which is one of those Toyworld things that just really bothers me, that the faces are just so visible on the back. But he's entirely okay, and we'll go ahead and compare him to a G1 Fortress Maximus headmaster. Now of course this is just Fortress, and our Fortress's headmaster, so yeah, just a little one. And if you want to compare the size, here is a G1 Fort Max head versus the what will become the Grand Max head here. And the final headmaster I really got to show off here is that here's the little Kabaya one that just came out like last year or something like that, just for overall size comparisons here. So as I was at the convention, one of my fellow podcast mates kind of made a joke and said Tuesday morning Fort Max, based on this one looking like the knockoff. I happen to have that one here, and just for comparison purposes, I figured I'd bring it out. Much more floppy, such that things kind of fold in on their own when they're not supposed to, and legs flop about and stuff, and certainly not an issue with this one. Very solid piece here, and no cockpit on this one. Just kind of a big mess here. The other one that could come to mind is the Kabaya kit, which is a bit bigger, and actually let's bring this out and I'll bring the KO one back in. This one does showcase how this would open and how this actually should look. The reason I brought that out is because the Kabaya one doesn't quite transform right either. You do get this thing flipping out, but this one doesn't change. There's no way to open up this compartment here. So there's the comparison. These Kabayas we've kind of seen some improvements with as they've gone. Fort Max didn't really get that treatment too much. So yeah, this is the Kabaya, and as you can see, pieces are still falling off of that one too. So one of the things the instructions touts is that this thing has kind of a second base mode. I don't particularly think it's that good, but I might as well show you it anyway. So we fold these things up, and you take these legs all the way out like this. Put this in a way that you can actually twist it around. And you want these little like flap pieces to be at the bottom here. Like this, which is a little bit tough to do. So go ahead and twist that, because we're gonna 180 him at the waist here. So automatically you can see that something is much different than, you know, your standard Fort Max. And you take this and you kind of put it like this, and you fold this thing in and his feet down like this, and you do that to both sides here like so, and you fold it in, and see these little like red tabs here? They don't particularly plug into anything, but you kind of collapse this thing on them like this, and to me it doesn't really work very well because of how the legs function, but you get something kind of like this, and you got to get this little gun thing out of the way. And I can't quite figure out what they want me to do with this gun, so I suppose you can just do it like this. It doesn't fold up against that leg like that very good, but they do tout this as a second base mode. Actually, the instructions call it its first base mode, and the second one just happens to be the Fort Max, you know, standard thing. But I don't think that that particularly looks good. It widens him out a bit, but I don't know. It doesn't really do anything for me. Regardless, though, the instructions say it's there, so I'm obligated to show you. So let's take him from this base mode to the imagination necessary spaceship mode, quote unquote. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it so these little tabs are back facing the top like this. Pretty much the top half gets to stay the way it is. We'll flip this waist piece around again and straighten these all out. Make sure these little guns are at the side here, like so. There we go. Put this down just like you would the regular base mode. Again, this gun, not my favorite gun in the world, but it kind of sits there. We'll go ahead and flip this on up, flip this on up, like so. Fold up these ramps like that, and if this pops up on you, make sure that you push this down. It sometimes pops out of place. This one folds into place like this, and then you can attach like your main blaster on the side. And there we go. We've got his ship mode. So now that we've got him in his spaceship mode, let's compare him. Again, here is your Tuesday morning slash, you know, whatever, Dollar General type knockoff of him. I don't know, spaceship mode. Not a whole ton to say about that. And here is the Kabaya kit version. One thing I forgot to mention when putting this guy into his starship mode is that he's got this big wide open panel, and he actually, one of the other improvements is this flap here. Now it is a problem because you're supposed to put a sticker right across the screw hole, which actually acts as a port to plug this in. But yeah, you take this and you kind of, it's a weird joint, you kind of have to have it down a little like this to make it work, and then push on this silver to lock it into place, but it does form a nice flush leg here to hide these hollow gaps on them. So it's actually a pretty cool, very easy upgrade. But yeah, I forgot to mention that when we're putting him into his ship mode. Obviously in the base modes, because the legs have to cave into here, you can't do that. But yeah, so I figured I'd show that because we're going to go and take him to his robot mode. So we'll flip his little feet on up, flip this little gun on in, and tuck it back away here. We'll take this one off. We'll split. It's easiest to open this up and split it from the inside carefully, because you do have pegs in the clear piece here. You flip it and you can see he does have the standard guns. There we go. And once this is in, we can close this on up. So fold this around and back, and you'll see we do have these tabs to plug this on in. Take this, and this side doesn't plug in as nicely for me. Take this, unplug it from the bottom here, and flip it around like so. Now we'll take the ramp and just flip it down like that, and you can see that we have, once this is plugged in place, it just kind of fits like this. There is no real plug-in on these things here, but they are intended to just kind of fit along the back. So now that we have that, we'll flip them back around to the front here. We're going to rotate his arms all the way on down. Make sure you disconnect the ramps here from the arms. Flip these on forward. We can rotate these down and very stiffly, which means we might need a tool to help get them out because they are stiff. Nope, there we go, got it. Can rotate these hands on out like so and like so. There we go. So we got his arms. I do have no ratchet here, as far as I can tell, which is not a big deal because it's frictionally holds, and then a big heavy one on this side, so that's a little bit weird. I don't know if that's a QC thing or something needs to be tightened, but ultimately it doesn't hinder my enjoyment of this toy at all. So you got that. Like I said, you can take this, and actually I was wrong, you can open that in the base mode. For some reason I thought it went the other way. You can see we have the little dial in here, and we can take our headmaster here, and all we do is kind of flatten his arms on out, take his legs, spin them around like so, and I do like that they made them so they plug in pretty securely here, and then fold it down, and you can see these two little grooves on his chest. And that's to accommodate the little leg holes here. And you can see as we plug this on in, check it out, we got the power meter inside there. And he can still rotate around on there, so we do get a little bit of head rotation out of it. So that's pretty cool. I really like that feature. And we could take like our Fortress Maximus, sort of plug it in. Oh, I want to risk breaking him. There we go. It's a bit snugger of a fit, but it will work. And I suppose we could take our Toyworld hardhead, and if you want you can plug him in. Though he doesn't hold nearly as well as Fortress because his head is different. It doesn't act the same way on plugging in as Fortress here. And one thing that I'm super curious of is if we take the Perfect Effect Fortress, can we make his head work? Yes, we can, and I think that actually looks pretty cool. Not going to get another Fortress for that purpose, but it can be done. And apparently we're going to stick the blue thing down in the process, so I'm going to make sure I didn't permanently do that, and we'll come back. Alright, we got it fixed up. All I did was have to plug it in and unplug it, so there we go. There's our Fortress here, and let's talk his articulation. You saw his head moved. We do have the arm rotation all the way around here. Very thick shoulder, a bicep swivel, a double jointed elbow for great range of motion out of his arm there. Wrist is on a swivel. The hand, of course, has articulated, interlocked but articulated fingers. Let's come down here before we move on. He does have the little panel that opens, and he does have little tiny cannons that will flip out of his wrist there. Bonus on that. Coming down further, you can see we do have the cannons in the side here, and they will articulate on out. As we move down here, we do have a waist rotation, so you can, get a fairly dynamic pose. Whoops, popped his head off. There we go, plug that back in. This hip armor will articulate a little as you need it to hide things. Relax though, if it's down, this is carved out perfectly, so you can actually make that leg articulate past it. It actually falls through that little gap there, so plenty of motion there. You do have a thigh cut here, a nice knee joint, nothing stellar. It gives you a 90-degree approximately, but it's pretty good. I mean, better than the original did. You do have this piece here, which is cut in a way to give you a ankle rotation or an ankle tilt, so you can kind of get that slightly more dynamic look out of his legs here if you want. And then of course you do have the standard articulation of the foot. So all in all, it does leave you with some pretty decent posing options in terms of getting him to do something that you want. And these are on a hinge here, so you can kind of move them up and out and around as you find necessary. But yeah, I really dig this guy. I think he's a well-made toy, and if you're overlooking him as just a knockoff, I mean, that's not good. He's definitely better than just saying he's a knockoff. You can open these pieces here too if you want, which I guess you could put other headmasters in. I'm not really sure why, but it really kind of looks like a seat. There we go. Toyworld is cross-promoting to other headmasters here, and you can see fits perfectly inside. So, as done before, let's compare him to some of the other Fortress offerings. Here is our little Tuesday morning version. As you can see, definite size difference. We'll take out our Kabaya kit version now. A little bit better in terms of overall size. Let's take out our G1 Fortress head. And we might as well do the Toyworld hard head. I kind of like that scale. And finally, let's not forget the perfect effect Fortress Maximus, or Warden, who is substantially smaller than this guy. So, is this guy going to be worth it for everyone? No, certainly not. Some people just want a desktop Fortress, and for that I say get that Tuesday morning knockoff, or even better, get the Kabaya, because he's a little bit more featured and less of a wobbly piece of junk as the knockoff. But if you're a fan of Fortress Maximus, or you want a Grand Maximus, and that's just out of the cards, this guy is pretty awesome, and he does offer a lot of cool things. And in some ways I think he's better than the Warden here, because while Warden is better detailed and such, he's certainly much more difficult to transform than the Toyworld one. So he's definitely more than a knockoff, and personally I'd really like to see what they could do with other G1 bots made a little bit more modern. I don't know if they'd turn out great on all of them, but I'd really like to see it. And I will take you out of here with something that I believe my good friend Greg from Mercy said. He said guaranteed third-party company is going to go ahead and make a pretender shell for this little guy. And I hope that happens. And if not by a third-party company, someone on Shapeways. See you next week.